This is the Concealed Carry Podcast, Season 9, Episode 19. And welcome to the Concealed Carry Podcast, part of the concealedcarry.com network of podcasts, brought to you by HK. Yes, new title sponsor of this episode is Heckler & Koch. Thank you to them for being supporters of ours. We welcome you to this episode on today, Wednesday, January 3rd, 2023. As of the recording of this episode, I am your host, Riley Bowman, and joined today by producer and co-host Brian McLaughlin.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
The Doc, sorry.
Either one works.
Today, folks, we bring you our Justified Saves episode. It's actually been, I think, 2 months since we did a Justified Saves episode. That's where we do our own coverage of defensive gun use stories from around the nation, also known as DGUs, but we call them here at the podcast Justified Saves because they are justified uses of deadly force in defense of, well, others or of yourself. We have a lot of great stories today we're going to be covering with you guys, so appreciate you being here and being a part of it. Want to tell you right now off the bat, you want to stick around to the end of the episode if you're interested in finding out if you happen to be the winner or one of the winners. We're picking 5 winners. One will get the grand prize and 4 other people will get some other cool prizes as well of our 2023 Dream Defenders Dream giveaway, which is a giveaway we ran from December 23rd through yesterday, actually. We mentioned that 2 episodes ago, so you should have had an opportunity to hear about it and get signed up for the giveaway. We had tens of thousands of people that signed up for the giveaway, so odds might be small, but hey, there's still a chance. It's like, what is that movie scene or quote? So that's isn't that Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah,
so you're saying there's a chance. So some of if you signed up, there's a chance that you will win either the grand prize of over $3,100 worth of stuff, including a Shadow Systems, I think it's the DR920 pistol, or XR920, excuse me, and a whole bunch of other great stuff. So stick around. At the end of the episode, we're going to do that announcement of the winners live. So we hope that we'll see you there at the end. Today's episode is sponsored not only by our title sponsor, HK, which we'll interrupt the podcast midpoint to share a couple of sponsor messages a little bit more in depth. But we got HK as a sponsor of today's episode, but also CCW Safe. So check out ccwsafe.com. Please support our sponsors that support us. And also HK, which the U.S. website is hk-usa.com. That's where you can learn about more great products from HK as well. Let's go ahead and now, without further ado, start getting into our Justified Save stories. And actually, as is usually the custom on the podcast, we often start with what we call our What Not to Do stories. And we got a couple of those here today. Actually, Brian, I'm gonna put you on the spot, brother. We got we're still breaking you in, but I've already done a bit of talking as we've launched the episode here and intro things. So tell us this first What Not to Do story, which is out of Shreveport, Louisiana. The title of the story is Victim Hurt by Gunfire After Attempted Car Theft.
Yes. So this is coming to us out of the Shreveport, Louisiana, with 2 assailants, and one male was armed with a gun. And when officers arrived, they discovered that a man had caught 2 men trying to break into his car. The victim was armed and held the suspects at gunpoint at first, and then let the suspects get away, police say. And then they fled. Suspects fired multiple times at the victim, striking the cars in the parking lot. And due to that gunfire, the victim received a minor cut to the face from a bullet fragment or glass. So being in the vicinity and trying to prevent the theft of their vehicle, they were wounded in the course of that action, which is, something that you kind of have to take into consideration. What am I willing to risk? I love my truck. I've got this big, beautiful blue truck. It's my baby. I'm not willing to die for that truck. I'll get myself something else. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, this is honestly, I think this is about the most common what not to do story that we share on the podcast, that we see on a weekly basis at the very least, if not even more often than that, where we have people that are that are having their it's usually car theft related, so cars being broken or broken into, so either cars being broken into to steal things from the car, or the car itself's being stolen. Every once in a while we have a similar story where it's just property theft related, as far as like someone's on the property trying to steal whatever just from the property in general, not without necessarily making intrusion into the home, right? And so these kinds of situations occur, and the victim, if you will, um, often goes out and confronts the robbers, the burglars, these bad guys. It's usually multiple, usually, and in this case, I think there was two of them. So anyway, um, the victim goes out and tries to prevent the theft, which I understand. My heart feels that 100%. I've been a victim of property theft, actually more than once. So I know what that's like, and it doesn't feel good, and it makes you mad, and you want to stop it if you can. But here's the deal: stuff is just stuff, and even cars are just cars. And I know that like it can be life changing in that you might be in a financial position where having to replace that is really, really difficult, if not like impossible. And it could even be that you have things stolen that are part of your livelihood, like tools and equipment. And we often see stories like this where it's an electrician or HVAC guy or a plumber, one of those trades type. Um, like someone that works in the trades, and they're getting their tools stolen, which is how they make their living and support their family.
Right.
And I get it. I do. Because again, I've been there. I've been a victim of that, and it sucks. However, and when I've heard things taking place, now one time it was my neighbor. I've talked about this on the podcast before. The neighbor was getting their car vandalized by a scorned ex, by the way. It sounded to me like either it sounded so close because it woke me up in the middle out of my sleep, right? And I just hear bash, 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 and they were bashing like the windshield and the headlights and the taillights and everything out on this car. Yeah. It was pretty.
So you're peeking through the blinds, checking out what's going on.
Oh well, at first and what was weird is it sounded like it was coming from a little bit different location than what it actually was, and so I was actually looking out because I thought it was either one of my front windows of my home, like that's how close it sounded, and or my vehicle out front. And so I'm looking out there first, and I'm like, wait, there's nothing, and then we finally figure out what's going on, right? So like been there, thought something was going down, and I had to do everything possible to just not like want to run out there because it was like this. It wasn't the initial thought was, oh, let's go, open my quick, my little pistol vault, grab gun, like, let's go kind of thing, and then it was like, wait, whoa, let's use some thinking here.
Right.
And then it was like, no, it's not worth it. Call 911. And then I had my wife do that, woke her up, like, okay, call 911. And, and I still had my gun ready, just in case, because like, you don't know, maybe they're going to then turn next to the house and start trying to, bust down the front door, or whatever. So stood at the ready, tried to be as good a witness as we could, that sort of thing. So anyway, point is, like, this sort of thing happens, and I get it. However, it's not worth it. In this case, the victim got injured from return fire from the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
He could have been killed. There is nothing more life-altering than losing your life or being so severely wounded that you're paralyzed. You lose a lot. You lose the use of a limb, amputation. You get hit in the head by a bullet or by a bullet fragment, and suddenly you're not maybe dead or brain dead, but maybe just
Yep.
Mentally disabled. Okay, so like nothing is more life altering than that kind of stuff.
Nothing is more life altering than losing your life. And
Yeah.
for what? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why this is the most common story we share. This is the most common analysis that we offer about such things. You still got to use your best judgment and decide for you. We talked about this a few weeks ago about like, hey, like who's the kind of, like, who are you going to be as a self or personal defender?
Mhm.
You got to understand your personal risks and what you're willing to do, and of course, stay within the bounds of the law. But anyway, enough about this particular story. We have a similar one, actually, that occurred not too far from home here. Actually happened in Centennial, Colorado. In fact, where I'm sitting right now in our company headquarters is not that far from Centennial. So this happened actually in a Walmart parking lot. Title of the story is "Shots Fired Outside of Centennial Walmart." This happened on January 2nd, so the day after New Year's here. So just not even 2 days. Well, it's almost exactly 2 days ago, because it happened about 1 p.m. on Tuesday of this week. We're recording this just after 1 p.m. on Thursday, so that's how recent this was. Basically, the story is the owner of a vehicle ran into the car care center portion of the Walmart, screaming that someone had just stolen their car. Originally, it was reported that the victim, tried to prevent this and fired shots at the thief as they were driving off. But it actually turns out that what was clarified in the reporting is that the person ran in to report the theft to others in the store, and a complete, as far as we know, unrelated third party goes out there and fires multiple shots off at the car as it's driving off. So I don't, yeah. And there's no mention as far as like charges being pressed against any of these individuals, that are more on the victim side. But that's probably not the best course of action. Not only because, one, this person probably involving themselves in something that's completely unrelated to them. They're drawing their gun, they're shooting shots. We don't even know if the thief in this case is armed, right? Like there may not, as far as we can tell, as far as how this news story reads, there was no actual threat against life.
It could be an undercover cop. It could be somebody lying and trying to get that other person into trouble, trying to get you into trouble. Like, there's so many different variables here to take into consideration. I think a lot of people need to work on their own scenario rehearsal, put themselves into a situation in Walmart where all of a sudden someone's running through screaming that their car just got stolen. What are you going to do? How are you going to respond to that? And I think, walking yourself through that scenario and seeing yourself be the hero there and handling it in the right way, I think that's a great way to kind of like work your way through these types of situations.
Yeah. That's why we talk about that's not the only reason, but that's a main reason why we even do the Justified Saves episode to begin with, is to talk about these things, talk about the lessons learned, talk about what goes well and what doesn't go well, what's done right and what's not done right. And it's not about, Monday morning quarterbacking of these individuals involved, but it's about, hey, put yourself in that position, think through that. It's a mental exercise of making sure that you think of these things before it happens to you, so that you can then go, hey, maybe, because I think what happens to a lot of people, Brian, or Doc, I got to get used to calling you Doc. See, we always just call Brian, but he's like,
just say it.
Doc. I'm Doc.
You make a much bigger deal about it than I do. I have not even talked about it for a while now.
I make a big deal because when we were talking about, Brian comes on the podcast more now, and he like puts in the show notes or outline, or show outline, like, and this is Doc, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Anyway, this is just for you guys to be thinking about. I think what happens, Doc, is that a lot of people haven't put in the time from a mental standpoint, mental preparation standpoint, to make, to understand what could happen and what they might do and what their courses of action would be, and they more or less simply react. And a pure reaction is not always the best idea.
Extremely dangerous to just react. You should never just react to a situation. I think, how many times do you hear that hero is interviewed and they say, like, how did you do what you did? And he says, I don't know. I just reacted. Like, that's very dangerous. You should always try to have a plan if possible. If you're caught off guard where you don't have the time to make a plan, that's a pretty bad emergency.
Yep, exactly. Good stuff. Well, that's our first two stories, which were what not to do stories. Hey, by the way, folks, you can always see the links to the actual stories that we cover on the podcast when we do so. And we always, with these justified save stories, every one of these stories has a link attached to them, some kind of news source. You can find these links if you want to read and study these for yourself, including some other stories that didn't quite make the cut for at least getting on our podcast analysis here today. They're available in the show notes when the podcast is published. Whether you check the podcast on the website, you'll see, along with the podcast posted on the website on concealedcarry.com, you'll see all the links will be there. But on most of your podcast player apps, I can't speak to how they all work, but there's usually a way to pull up the show notes within the app as well. And you should see these same links posted there. Next story, justified save out of Denver, Colorado on on New Year's Eve, 2:45 p.m. This was Sunday, just a few days ago. The title of the story is Father Shoots Attempted Robbery Suspect Who Opened Fire on His Family in a Denver Museum's Parking Lot. This actually happened at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, which is honestly a favorite of ours in our family. I've taken my family
too.
there many times. And so this one caught my attention. I was like, whoa. I mean, I've been in that parking lot, and of course, this is what I do, anytime I go with my family somewhere in public, and especially I've been to that museum, and it seems like it's a pretty up and up sort of place.
Right. I always get my head on a swivel, but right there, sure. I'm not like hunting, I'm fairly comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still going to be aware, and I have, thinking through our visits. In fact, we were just there sometime this summer. I remember we went, and actually it might have been like August or September. I remember we went, and I'm alert. I'm paying attention. At the same time, I'm not expecting to see what happened next to this young family. A man, his girlfriend, and their two children. Brian, you want to take it away with a few more details as to this incident?
Yep. So they were in the parking lot, and apparently the father was, if I remember correctly on this, he was changing his shirt in the parking lot when they were approached by two Hispanic males, thin builds, between the ages of 18 and 24. I have been a male between the age of 18 and 24, and I can attest that they are often up to no good. So they quickly approached him, and he told police that they had handguns with extended magazines drawn and pointed at him. Sounds like that standard gangbanger yeet cannon. And then, according to the probable cause statement, then they ran up on the girlfriend with the firearms. He, of course, feared for the life of his family, and he drew and engaged them with his pistol.
Yeah, that's pretty wild, dude. I mean, because it just seems like it's so random, right? It doesn't seem to be anything that was targeted in particular, because of who they were. Just that is a crime of opportunities. These guys were looking for an opportunity, clearly, and saw this family pull into the parking lot. Perhaps saw this man start to change his shirt, because I presume they're going to go into the museum, and maybe he, I don't know, maybe he was doing some work that day or something, and I don't know, he's changing his shirt. Guess what? That's an opportunity, because that's a brief moment of distraction and less alertness. So a parking lot is what is, I think this the commonly accepted term now, is known as a transitional space, right? because you're basically going from one space, your car, to another space, the building, where there's arguably a little bit more, I guess, a little bit more of a barrier, obviously, because if you're in your vehicle, that's one thing. At the very least, these guys approached me while I was in my vehicle and I could use my vehicle to escape. Like, cool, great. That's a very valuable thing to be able to escape with my vehicle and maybe even use it as a defensive tool against them. If I am inside the building, okay, that's a good place to be. But in between, that's a transitional space. A parking lot's a transitional space. Even a large foyer type, space inside of a big building where think of a mall, like a food court or something is what I would think of more as as another type of a transitional space. Also, getting out of I just had to get gas this morning, we see a lot of things that take place at gas stations, right? You're outside, you're in the open, you're a little bit distracted by what's going on with the pump, etc. This morning I'm trying to enter in numbers on the keypad. The keypad's not responding. So, that, draws your attention. You got to be paying attention to those opportunities of where other people can get you. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you're kind of in this no man's land, defensively, speaking. So that's basically what happened here. However, this father, applause to him, good to him, as far as he was armed, he was carrying, he was prepared. He then made and it didn't sound like he immediately drew, the way the story reads, there's kind of this initial exchange, and then he, at some point goes ahead and draws his gun and then exchanges fire with these guys. Fortunately for him, he's not struck. His family's not struck. One of the bullets impacted the rear portion of the vehicle, somewhat close to where one of his kids was still inside the vehicle. That kind of stuff is scary, but that's the reality of deadly force usage. He did, as far as we can tell, everything pretty well, pretty right, and legally certainly justified. So I got to give major props to this dad for doing what he needed to defend his family.
Yeah, I think the two things that I think you could take away from this is the third story in a row that we've had about cars. So knowing how to shoot around vehicles is a pretty important thing. Knowing your self-defense around your car, in your home, of course, those are going to be your two different spaces. And that transitional space is that space in between your defensive positions. You don't want to be caught out in the open. You want to scurry like a little rat in between your cover, so that way you have a good way of egress. You've got a way to block line of sight, and you have a little bit of defensive posturing. And then the second thing I think that is important to note here is how important medical skills are, medical gear, especially in your vehicle, which is going to be your mobile command center in a way. Right now, if you have to fight out of that, or your family gets hurt, you got to have some sort of medical gear and some skills to be able to use it. A lot of times people think, hey, I got a gun, I'm prepared. But bullets are flying. You might get hit, someone in your family might get hit, and you don't want to be solving the problem with this and then watching your kid bleed out in front of you. Or at least that's my opinion.
Yeah, super sketchy, man. Like I said, this story hit a little bit close to home because I could relate to it because I've been there, and I mean that's worst case scenario of going to the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. I'm sure we will visit there again because again, it's a family and a kid favorite, but I will definitely view it with even a renewed perspective, as knowing because to my knowledge, I'm sure crime has occurred there before, probably more like a property crime as far as a vehicle getting broken into or something. And it's a, pretty big facility, pretty big museum, fairly large parking lot. But knowing that, hey, in broad daylight in the middle of the day on a Sunday afternoon, two dudes are willing to be like, hey, yo, give me your car, give me your stuff or what, we don't know if they're trying to take the car or trying to just rob them or what, but anyway, pretty crazy.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you probably would have collateraled those guys. Have you seen that movie Collateral with
I have
Tom
not.
Cruise?
No.
What? You should watch that. as a gunfighter, you should watch that one. That was a
You'd
good
be
one.
amazed how many movies I have not watched.
That's a good one.
Good to
Jamie
know.
Foxx, it's a good one. All right, next one.
Mayoral candidate shot dead with AR-15 by brother-in-law in likely self-defense case. Police. This is the title of a news article out of Soso, Mississippi.
So.
Yeah, I've never heard of that one. I like it. I mean, as far as
I do too.
you know,
I keep rolling it in my head.
How's your hometown? Well, it's so-so. This one is a domestic dispute or domestic violence incident. This involved an estranged wife and husband. Sounds like they were in the process of going through a divorce. This husband, who's he's been kicked out of the house, and in fact, the wife has a emergency protection order filed against him. So it just goes to show, like, I mean, I understand the purpose of restraining orders and emergency protection orders and the like, from a standpoint. At least it gives the law some teeth to be able to do certain things when people you don't want around you are show up all of a sudden. But that doesn't prevent people that are intent on causing harm, at the very least of just disrupting your life. Doesn't prevent them from actually doing that, which is why I'm a huge advocate of domestic violence victims to be able to purchase tools for self-defense. And that's a big one right now. In fact, there's a lawsuit going on in Colorado. One of the plaintiffs on that case is my friend Alicia, who one of her, and this has to do with the mandatory waiting period that just went into effect in Colorado on gun purchases. And her lawsuit specifically is targeting the aspect of, well, hey, look, this is a problem because sometimes people are in an emergency situation and they need a tool of self-defense, a gun, to prevent stuff like this. This woman is lucky because she lives next door to her brother-in-law, who came over this happened at 4 a.m. where this estranged husband shows up on her doorstep, raising, all heck, and the brother-in-law comes over to assist this woman. And here's the thing: if you read into the story, I don't know if you picked up on this, Brian, but there's a history of threats and violence from this man previously. Like a year prior, there was another incident where he loaded a gun and threatened family members, and so.
Including the brother-in-law who shot him, I think, too, right? Yeah.
Right. So I think, that kind of and that's an important detail here to pick up on, because history that's part of your defensive, tools, if you will, of hey, what has happened before? What's the context of all this? Because this brother-in-law didn't show up empty-handed. He came over with his AR-15. And that was probably a good thing, because it didn't go to blows and bullets, bullet exchanges right off the bat. He showed up to defend this woman, his sister-in-law, told the estranged husband, get out of here, get off the property. We have a restraining order against you, et cetera, et cetera. And that was not working. And at some point, this estranged husband draws his own gun. And at that time, the brother-in-law raises his AR-15 and shoots him multiple times, killing him. So pretty wild stuff. Lot of times violent incidents in this country do involve are domestic in nature, meaning they occur between family members, which is, of course, always tragic and horrible. But, we've reported on this podcast of fathers having to shoot sons, sons having to shoot fathers, all kinds of things. And of course, we got another one a little bit later on in the podcast too, another domestic incident as well. Wives, husbands, girlfriends, boyfriends. It's a real thing. And a lot of times the victims in these cases are the ones that are the most defenseless of the two individuals, which is why it's important for, I think, people to be able to, buy the necessary tools they feel they need to protect themselves, because that is your constitutional right.
Yes.
Yeah. Other thoughts or analysis on this one, Brian?
No, and it sounds like Mr. Marshall was definitely struggling. He had shared that house with his wife for 12 years. They had kids together, and now they're going through this bitter divorce. And he unfortunately is in a very bad place and was not handling it very well. Such a bad situation. I really feel for those kids in that. I hope they weren't home for that.
It actually said in the story that there were 3 children, and they were inside the home when this occurred.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
That's
it's pretty rough. Yep. So, anyway. Yeah. At this time, take a quick break. Thought I'd mention today's episode sponsored by Heckler & Koch, or HK, as they're more commonly known, because not everybody even knows how to pronounce Heckler & Koch. Of course, HK has been making firearms for generations out of Germany. They make quality firearms. This is a relatively new deal with them. As of the first of this year, the podcast and concealedcarry.com were sponsored by HK, and we're proud to be a part of that sponsorship and that partnership together with them. I was reading something just this morning, Brian, about HK, and it was actually somebody else's review they had written on the VP9 match pistol, which is one of the pistols I'll be using in competition this season. And they said something about that the barrel. It was described to them that the barrel is made from quote unquote cannon grade steel. And I was like, I don't know why, but that puts a big smile on my face, What
does that even mean? I don't know, but I like it.
Cannon grade steel. Yeah, I don't even know what that means either. Because, like, in my mind, I think of like old school, like Civil War, Revolutionary War era cannons. And they probably weren't made from high quality steel. In fact, they were probably made from cast iron.
Yeah.
Probably not, either way, it still sounds cool as heck. Here's what I do know. Engineers and designers and manufacturers, the guys that actually build the guns at HK. HK pistols are heavily engineered, really well designed, super reliable, very, very, very tough. And we're honored and privileged to be a part of a partnership together with them. And so check them out. HK-USA.com is a website to check out and learn more about HK. You'll probably hear more about that going forward in the future. So, and if you're going to be at SHOT Show, I should mention this now, folks. We will be at SHOT Show. So if you are going to be at SHOT Show, you should stop by and see us. We will have a booth for the second year in a row now. Booth number 41010, 41010, or 41010. Booth 41010 is where we will be. I'll also be spending some time in the HK booth, I'm sure, at some point, or maybe multiple times during the week. Hope to see you there. But do stop by and say hello. The concealedcarry.com, along with our other various brands, Mountain Man Medical. Brian will be representing us well for the Mountain Man Medical brand there. Range Tech Shot Timers, KSG Armory holsters, Barrel Block, Ready Up Gear products, and we also rep products for Gunfighter Gun Oil and EDC Belt Company. And I feel like I'm missing one, but you get the gist. Come say hello. We hope to see you there. All righty. Let's get to our next story. Brian, tell us about this one out of Blair, Wisconsin. Happened on New Year's Day, super early in the morning, 1:16 a.m. Man shot while allegedly breaking into Blair home.
Yeah, not a lot of extra details on this one. The callers told dispatch that a man was breaking into the home, and at around that time, the caller's husband confronted the suspect and then shot him. When they arrived on scene, they found that the door was kicked in and the suspect was lying on the garage floor. Obviously, I think one of the most important things that you can do is work as a team with your spouse, having one person on the phone while the other one is on top of security, I think is one of those important aspects of things. And then, of course, talking with your significant other about what to do, how to corral up the kids, where to be positioned in the room for the least amount of damage and the most amount of ballistic protection. I think I've talked to you. We were talking a little bit about you were recommending like maybe putting bookshelves in strategic locations or something like that, so that you could have a little bit extra defense.
Yeah, it's a viable option. I mean, yes, paper is, in once you get certain thickness of it, is very effective at stopping bullets.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's something to ponder and think upon, that you go, hey, I've got, I've got a collection of books. I have a library or whatever that I enjoy because I like reading. You might consider where your bookshelf is placed, and even if it's something like a built-in bookshelf, well, at the very least, you can work that into your plan as far as work, because not a lot of things inside a residential home in today's world, especially, really offer ballistic protection in a significant fashion. And so it's a bookshelf is one tool that you can kind of use in as far as your plan of, hey, where is that located? That should inform you a little bit about where you might want to position yourself or your loved ones or whatever,
So,
if you don't have a whole lot of other options.
So for example, you could position a bookshelf on a wall where maybe your daughter's bed might be, so that if any rounds did come through and she was asleep on that bed, she would have a little bit of extra protection, right?
Yeah. And you recognize that a bookshelf, like, unless you have shelves and books in such a way that like they fill it more or less from top to bottom, you don't have a lot of gaps. That's not very common. You're going to usually have some gaps. It's not a perfect solution, but it's better than just drywall. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
definitely.
So understand the the limitations and the context and everything of what you're dealing with. But that's just one amongst a number of strategies that you might employ, from as far as thinking about how you protect your family and defend. We call that principle, by the way, what you just described, Brian, of isolating the family and defending the room, if possible, where possible. It's a more defensible option if you can get all those people you care about assembled in one place that's relatively defensible, right? That you give some thought to as far as, hey, this is the best place to do that, because it's a lot harder, especially if you're looking at it as I'm the father, I'm the father of this family, of this household, and primarily, I mean, perhaps your wife can take part in that. I mean, and should arguably take part in defense of the family and the home as well. But in our household, my wife is not a big, she's not a big gun user. I mean, we go shooting, once a year maybe together, and that's about all that she cares to do. And so it's going to rest on me, that primary responsibility. So, I don't. There's only so much a single individual can do, right? And if I got kids over in that part of or family members in that part of the house and family members in that part of the house, that's a lot difficult of a defensive problem than if I can isolate the family and then focus on defending, essentially the threshold of a threat that's going to get to them. Right. And so for our family, fortunately, our bedrooms are more or less clustered, in one part of the house, as part of one continuous hallway. And if I can get them all together, they're right close, I focus on preventing any threat from coming down that hall. And that's a lot simpler tactical problem than some of the alternatives.
And how often do you think that you do training on this? Do you do like a family event or something like that where you work on this or discuss it or that kind of thing?
Periodically. That's something we probably should and could do on a more scheduled, regular basis. I would say it happens more because usually what happens in my family is, to give you an example, like this Denver museum shooting that happened. I mean, that's outside the context of home defense, but I forwarded that story to my wife because I want her, hey, because there's been times she's taken the kids to the museums by herself,
Mhm.
and I immediately forwarded that to her because it's like, hey, FYI, like this is why your husband preaches and teaches about this stuff, and I want you to be aware. And if I, in a certain part of me hopes that she would be like, maybe I should, get a little bit more training and actually carry a gun and, that kind of thing, which she has no interest in currently. But
Yeah.
so I forwarded that to her, right? So similar things like, it's been inspired by justified save stories we've shared on this podcast, where it's like I shared that with my wife or whatever, or now with my older kids, we have a group chat with my wife, my two oldest kids, because they're kind of an age where this is more appropriate, and I'll drop certain things in there, links to stories and events and stuff, and then that usually uh, inspires a conversation to take place in the household. So it might be over dinner, it might be a family meeting, a little bit more formal setting, but yeah, that's kind of, I'd say, periodically, a few times a year, we have the opportunity to sort of talk about, okay, if this happened, then what do we do, how do we handle that,
Right.
that kind of thing. So we probably should be more uh,
Scheduled.
scheduled.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's kind of
but
why
we're
we
not.
don't do the schedule. We do it on occasion. I would say like once or twice a year, we get all of our extended family together and kind of have like a group safety brief. And so
Yeah.
someone will come in and give like a brief about one thing or another. And usually I'll do, of course, some medical and that kind of stuff. And the last time that we did it, I gave Josh, my brother-in-law, he's this stout little Mexican dude. I gave him this bottle of blood, and I was like,
Mm.
Josh, put some on your arm and go in there and act like you cut yourself. And he's like,
Mm.
okay. And he just takes that bottle and he goes in there and just instead pours it all over his naked chest and comes running out, screaming his head off, freaks out all of the kids there. It was way more complicated than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, I think putting together a good little training evolution like that for your family and making it fun and
Mm.
engaging, I think is something that they're going to take away. They're going to remember that, for a long time. And it's something you can just do as a family,
Yeah.
make everybody a little safer.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Good thoughts, man. Good thoughts. That's another reason why we kind of have we do these episodes. It's opportunity to share lessons to learn and that should have been learned with our audience, but also for us, because it's like, okay, yeah, I should be a little bit more disciplined in how we approach this. I know from conversations with my kids in particular that they have a pretty good sense of how the Bowman household is to be run when something goes awry, and yeah, it does simplify things greatly. Uh, Knowing that most likely situations that would occur at a time when kids are in bed, it's relatively simple to, my wife knows, like, we can get everybody, you know, out of their rooms, out of their beds, into our one defensible space pretty easily, relatively speaking. Um, the bigger concern is what happens if it's not when we're all in bed, right? And so that's something we probably could spend a little bit more time talking in greater detail. Um, we had an incident a number of years ago. I've talked about this on the podcast too, where a fugitive running from the law made his way through our backyard before he was tackled in our neighbor's driveway. Same driveway where the spurned ex decided to. Yeah, so something about that
Interesting.
driveway. Two very random, completely unrelated events, but
It's a cursed driveway.
yeah, right. Um, yeah, so that one happened on a lazy Sunday afternoon, and my kids were a lot younger then, but they could have been older, and they could have been playing in the backyard. They could have been any number of places. So
Right.
yeah. Anyway, good things to think about. Let's move on. Man robs Akron, Ohio Taco Bell, gets shot by employee. Police say this happened on New Year's Day, 7:30 p.m. Two assailants, although one of those was a getaway driver. So primarily one assailant that went into the business with a gun, and he demanded money, right? And actually, one of the workers saw immediately what was taking place. She ran to the freezer, got in there, and basically locked herself in there. Later, she was joined by the manager of the store, who then also got on the phone with 911 and was feeding information to dispatchers. But during the course of this robbery, the suspect fired at one of the employees, and then it says that another 21-year-old male employee pulled out a gun of his own and shot back at the suspect, striking him in the chest. That suspect they found because he later showed up and reported to a hospital because he was wounded pretty severely. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. So people talk a lot of times about compliance with such things, like, well, you maybe should just comply with the robber. Like, no need to get involved and draw your own gun. Like, it probably just increases your risk. I'll just share this, and I intend to get him on the podcast at some point. His name's John Hearn. John Hearn works with Rangemaster, recently retired federal agent. I don't remember what agency he worked for, but he recently just retired. And I actually attended a virtual presentation that John put on talking about crime and criminals and statistics and a bunch of things. This was like a week ago, actually a week ago exactly today. I attended a virtual presentation by John Hearn. It was fabulous, a fabulous presentation. And I know that one of the statistics that he presented had to do with armed robberies, and looked at statistics involving situation like the risk of getting hurt or killed when the person simply complies, the risk when the victim chooses to use force.
Interesting.
And there was a third category, but I'm going to focus on those two. I can't remember what the third thing was. And interestingly enough, the risk, I don't remember the exact percentages, but there was a pretty good chance of you being hurt, injured, if you simply complied with the robber. And the risk of getting hurt if you chose to engage and use force to stop or prevent this robbery, it didn't actually get it didn't increase necessarily because you chose to use your gun and defend yourself. I should go back. I thought I took some notes on that. I should have looked that up. I didn't think about it till just now. But it was really, really, really interesting. In fact, now I think about it, I think I took a screenshot of that, and I'll bet I can pull it up. And I'll come back to that if I do find it later in this episode and share what some of those statistics were, because it was really interesting. So this is one of those situations where, as far as we can tell based on the reporting, as far as the reporting goes, there was compliance that was being done with this robber's demands, but he still ended up firing at one of the employees. And it was at that point that this other employee drew his own gun and returned fire. So I thought that was pretty remarkable. Don't know what the repercussions will be on that employee for, as far as his job's concerned, but police were very clear that, what he did was justified.
Right. Yeah. It says a corporate spokesperson for Taco Bell issued the following statement. "We are shocked to hear that this happened. The franchise owner and operator of this location has informed us that they are working with the local authorities in their investigation and that they will be offering support to all team members present. Taco Bell Corporation." Meaning, hey, it's being taken care of. We're not doing anything.
Yeah. So. Guess what? I did take a screenshot, so I've got the number already. So a person that does not resist a robbery, they have a 25% chance of injury and an 89% chance that robbery is completed. Okay. A person that resists, okay, their chance of injury is, okay, actually, so lumping together any form of resistance, there's a 38% chance of injury, but only a 52% chance of the robbery is completed. So the chance of the robbery being actually completed goes down dramatically. And again, this is just any form of resistance. So you resist in any shape or way or form, there's a 38% chance you're going to be injured of some kind. Okay. That went up from 25%. But here's the interesting thing. resistance with a firearm, your chance of injury is actually 17%. So your chance of injury actually goes down if you resist a robbery with a firearm. And then the chance of that robbery being completed goes down by 30, or goes down to 31% from, again, where we started at 89%. Okay. And now get this, that's just resistance, period. But if you resist prior to that's a little bit unclear. It's the slide says resistance prior to injury, 6% chance of injury. Oh, so if you resist with a firearm prior to them, proactively, like say, striking with their gun or something, trying to get compliance with, because they're robbing you. If you resist, like in other words, if you react really quickly, your chance of injury is 6%. So that's huge. So, and then the other thing was, that was the third category here, is rape and resistance. So with rape, armed resistance was most successful method to avoid completion of the rape or sexual assault. And whether or not you resisted with a weapon or not did not affect your injury rate in the case of a rape. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So anyway, so my point to sharing that is with respect to this Taco Bell robbery, this is the great debate that people have is, well, maybe I should just comply, and if you comply, like nothing will happen. That's not true. Just by complying, you have a 1 in 4 chance in a robbery of being injured. And if you resist with a firearm, your chances of getting injured go way down. So pretty interesting stuff. I don't remember exactly where all the statistics came from, but John Hearn has stuff to back up everything that he says from what I've seen. So I definitely trust him on that. All right, we need to move along here. But before we get into our next couple of stories to wrap this up today, I do want to mention our other episode sponsor today is CCW Safe. CCWSafe.com is their website. CCW Safe is our choice for self-defense legal coverage of some type, which you should have, because otherwise it's up to you to secure an attorney and to pay for that attorney. And I'll tell you, especially with self-defense cases, oh shoot, I just had a brain fart. The retainer, just for a typical case where like a firearm is involved, is probably minimum $25,000. Minimum. Okay, it's in a lot of cases probably higher than that. Unless you just got 25 plus K sitting around, in free assets, you're probably in a tough spot. Okay, some cases can cost a lot of money. We know that. You've seen some of those high-profile cases. I'm not saying that's going to be you. I'm not going to say that's super common, but stuff does happen, even in cases where people make good decisions, good legal and moral decisions. Sometimes things just go this way where you still are going to find yourself in need of legal representation. CCW Safe is the option that we recommend to back you up, and they will back you up. They've proven it again and again and again, including in some very, very high profile, very expensive cases. They're the one company I know will back up their members. Check out ccwsafe.com today for self-defense legal coverage. All right. Oh, and Guardian Nation members, I should mention, I always try to make sure I mention this, have a 20% discount. That's open to members in the members dashboard area. You can get that discount code, use that, save 20% off of a CCW Safe membership. Actually, I think it's, oh shoot, I can't remember if that's just their elite membership or I thought it's all their memberships, but that may have changed. Either way, you should get the elite membership and save 20% either way. Check it out. All right. Male shot after reported burglary at a home in Pittsburgh area neighborhood. It's actually this is what's dumb sometimes about journalism, Doc. This story says reported burglary. Now that may have been how it was reported. Maybe that's what the call that was made. Maybe it was made by a neighbor. They didn't understand the circumstances. But this is actually a domestic violence situation. Why don't you tell us about this one out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania?
Oh, this is a rough one. On Tuesday morning, a woman ended her relationship with a male victim, and then he showed up at her house and kicked her front and back doors in. Police said she told officers that she shot him when he approached her. And then the man then fled the home, later turned up at the hospital in critical condition after he had abandoned his vehicle. So, yet another bad situation where luckily somebody had was armed and they had ended the relationship. And clearly, I don't know, it seems like they were prepared for something kind of crazy happening. It seems reasonable that that person might have ended the relationship based on the violent nature of him kicking out her front and back doors. So yeah, that's a rough one right away.
Yeah, and this was that other story I told you that we'd have another domestic related incident on the podcast here today. Very, very, very common situations, very sad situations, but it happens. And you know, and it's not even always man against woman either. It can go both ways, although it is primarily usually male partners that do something violent towards their female ones. But regardless, if you're the victim in this kind of situation, you deserve protection. You have the right and should be able to exercise that freely. Unfortunately, a lot of states, a lot of jurisdictions trying to make that more difficult. So I already gave one example of that here in Colorado, here, unfortunately, which is something we're actively trying to fight against. So anyway, there you go. That's another example, and I appreciate you sharing that one with us, Brian. We've got one more story here we're going to cover today. Home invasion leads to one dead in East Side Indy shooting. So Indianapolis, Indiana, is a home invasion. We don't know exactly the number of assailants, but at least two of them. Okay, and this actually happened on I think this was Monday night, Monday night, New Year's Day night. In Indianapolis, about 7 p.m. So it's after dark already at that point. Basically, police get a report of a home break-in. They arrive. They find an adult male deceased on the basically the front step of this home with gunshot injuries. Not a ton of details on this particular story as far as what led to it, but clearly started as a home invasion. Phone call was made reporting it. The homeowner was detained for questioning. They don't say that he's been completely ruled out. However, it looks pretty clean from what we see that's being reported thus far. It does say there was an exchange of gunfire between the homeowner and one or more suspects. Now, what I thought was interesting about this story, Brian, is because you have this one of the suspects dead at the doorstep. We again don't know a ton of details, but how many times have you heard people, sometimes just in jest as a joke, but people talk about, and I know I've met people that have said this seriously. Well, if you shoot somebody outside the door there, you better drag them back, drag them in, right? And
Yeah.
which is
Uh,
which is terrible advice. And this is just an example of, hey, here appears to be a justified save that took place in Indianapolis. And dude got shot on the doorstep, and dude fortunately got left on the doorstep, as far as we can tell. So that's the lesson here is, hey, wherever they drop, let them drop. Don't tamper with evidence. It's just going to create problems for you. Again, there could be some other circumstances we don't know about yet, but as far as we can tell, it says there's an exchange of gunfire that almost certainly says, hey, this is self-defense. So good on this, homeowner that, felt like they had to defend themselves and did so and did so successfully. So hopefully everything, goes well as far as the investigation is concerned. There you go. That's we did have another story, but just due to time, I said, we'll just move that one into the extra links for today. It involved a dog actually attacking a man and his child, a father and his son, and he shot the dog and saved themselves. So good for them. But the one thing I was gonna add about that, Brian, was that that's one good reason besides non-lethal uses against humans. But it's one more good reason to carry something like some palm pepper spray.
mm-hmm.
This is the little canister I carry with me pretty much on a daily basis. Lots of documented cases and uses of pepper spray against threatening animals and dogs in particular.
Right.
And quite effective in most cases. And so something to just think about there. I mean, certainly it sounds like in this case that it was justified, in that this man used deadly force to try to stop this dog. But, if you have the option to spray it with some pepper spray and arrive at a positive, meaningful end without death involved, well, I would definitely, prefer that outcome as well.
Oh, it's always nice to have options.
Yeah.
And fortunately the dog didn't die. He had a surgery, I think, on his leg, but they said it's going to recover. But yeah, the dog needs to get some better training, maybe some palm spray there, help that.
Yeah, it's just like you said, good to have options. So, all right, we're right at an hour. That's not too bad. We got through a bunch of stories in an hour's time. We still have a little bit more to do in this episode, though, because today's episode is a little bit different, a little bit special in that we're announcing 5 winners, including 1 grand prize winner of the 2023 Defender's Dream giveaway, which we launched from December 23rd, I believe, up through January 3rd, which was yesterday as of the recording of this episode. Thousands upon thousands of you guys entered the giveaway. We had a bunch of great companies involved in the giveaway, including companies like I should have the whole list here. In fact, let me go ahead and try that, pull that up so we can actually recognize all these companies right now. I just can't remember all of them off the top of my head. Let's see here. Where do I have that?
The Defender's Dream giveaway.
Yeah, I know I've got an image where they're all recognized. Here we go. So here were the companies involved in this giveaway. Shadow Systems. Actually, they were involved, but indirectly, because actually guns.com was a sponsor of this giveaway, and they're actually donating the Shadow Systems XR920 Elite Pistol, which is one of the top prizes of this whole giveaway. That's included in the grand prize of the giveaway. So actually, I'm going to list off here what some of these prizes are, which in the process will also tell you who the companies involved are as well. A Next Level Training Cert Stick Package. Okay, so Next Level Training, thank you to them for coming on board as also a sponsor of this. 9 Line Apparel, providing a $500 gift card. Mountain Man Medical, donating a Yellowstone trauma kit.
Yeah.
KSG Armory, donating a $100 holster voucher, which pretty much gets you just about any holster we make on ksgarmory.com. Throom, thank you to Throom for sponsoring this with a set of their Hang Tough targets. Tactical RX with their shooting glasses. Thanks to them, you get a pair of, I think it's any of their glasses. I think there's that the retail on that's variable, but you're somewhere of $100 to $200. EDC Belt Company providing a foundation belt of the user's choice, color and size. Filster, thank you to Filster for getting on board. We really appreciate John and Sarah Houtman at Filster, partly because KSG Armory is our holster company, and it's just cool to be able to also do something that involves another holster company and a quality one at that. We're huge fans of the Enigma product that Filster makes, and pretty much all of the holsters, there's one or two exceptions, but pretty much all the holsters we make, like our Lexington holster, Revere holster, Declaration holster, and also we have the Filster Legacy product. So that's the other thing that's maybe not a lot of people know is that KSG Armory is the only company that has the right, partly because we have the molds that were purchased from Filster, that we still make some of their legacy products that Filster has discontinued. Still great holster products, like their Filster Classic series of holsters, and also the Filster Spotlight, which was a hugely popular holster back in the day. The problem with the Spotlight, it's not available for a ton of gun and light options. But anyway, point is, we love Filster and the folks over there and appreciate them for being willing to go in on this giveaway with us and all these other companies too. So Filster donating an Enigma Express with holster. Okay, so the Enigma Express, it's not just the Enigma, but the Express means that it comes with an already mounted holster. So you choose which holster is going to go with that, and a Tyrant CNC $250 gift card. So thank you to Tyrant CNC. So again, guns.com, Next Level Training, 9Line Apparel, Mountain Medical, KSG Armory, Throom Targets, Tactical RX, EDC Belt Company, Filster, and Tyrant CNC. Thank you, all these companies, for joining with us on this end of the year wonderful giveaway. Total value of the grand prize package over $3,100. And then the other prizes, I'll go ahead and just mention those now. So the second or the first runner-up of the giveaway is going to get a KSG Armory $100 holster voucher. The second runner-up, actually, let's do these in value of prizes. There we go, because these aren't in order. The first runner-up will get a Filster Floodlight holster, value of $128. I think that's actually the Filster Floodlight 2, because they don't really make the Floodlight anymore. The second runner-up will get a KSG Armory $100 holster voucher. The third runner-up will get a pair of Tactical RX glasses, value of $100. And the fourth runner-up will get an EDC Belt Company Foundation belt, value of $50. There you go. There's all the prizes. So the time has come, Brian, Doc, to announce the winners. We're doing this live. Folks, you're going to watch this. I'm going to share my screen. You're going to see we have the thousands upon thousands of these names that of those of you that signed up for this giveaway. I'm sharing the screen now. And these are just first names, what state you're from, and then kind of what your email address ends in, so that, because we're not going to give your full name and all that, live on air here. So this will hopefully give you enough of an idea of who you are. I should mention that we are going to contact you. You don't have to be listening. You don't have to be live, but we hope that you're sticking around for this. We are going to send you an email if you were one of those that was selected, telling you that you've won, and you will have 72 hours from sending of that email to respond. If we don't hear back from you in 72 hours, we will move on to the next person. Okay, we'll pick somebody in place of you. So you do need to know that. You got 72 hours to get back to us, or we're just going to pick another name. Okay? So 72 hours to respond. I'm going to pick random winners from this huge list of names. And we're going to start from the lowest value prize. So we're going to do our fourth runner-up, and we're going to go third runner-up, so on and so forth. And we'll pick the grand prize winner very, very last. Save the best for last. Brian, you're here for cheerleader support, and you're gonna be my drum roller, okay?
All right.
So let's choose now our winner of this will be for the EDC Belt Company Foundation belt of prize value of $50. Be your choice of EDC Belt Company Foundation belt. So that basically means you get to choose whether it's black or the sage color as the two primary options, desert sage. So you choose your color and choose your size, okay? I believe they go from waistband size of 28 inches up to 50 inches, all right? So for the $50 foundation belt from EDC Belt Company, I am going to pick that random winner now. Drum roll, please. Okay. There we go. That's what it's supposed to do. I was like, it's not doing the thing. You guys seeing this? Boom. It just went through a whole bunch of names. Stacy from Georgia. Stacy from Georgia with a email address that ended in gmail.com. All right. Congratulations, Stacy. You are the first winner, which means you're the fourth runner-up of the Defender's Dream giveaway. All right. You ready to pick our third runner-up? Drum roll, please. Here we go. I see all the names. It's doing the thing. We got Andre from Connecticut. Email address ending in protonmail.com. Andre is going to get the $100 value Tactical RX glasses. Congratulations, Andre from Connecticut. All right, and I'm also making sure I'm recording these. Of course, this whole thing is recorded, but I'm just writing these down real quick for convenience sake. All right, congratulations, Andre. All right, drum roll, please. This is be for the $100 KSG Armory holster voucher of $100 coming right up. random picker. Brad from Georgia. Our second one from Georgia. Brad from Georgia. Email address ending in hotmail.com. Brad, congratulations. You'll get the KSG Armory $100 holster voucher. Awesome. And for our first runner-up winner, this will be for the $128 value Filster Floodlight 2 holster. Ready? Drum roll.
Let's do it.
Who's getting the Filster Floodlight? William from New York. Congratulations, William. I should mention before he's William from New York, and his email address ends in me.com. I should mention that if for some reason there is a product that, like, if I pick somebody right now here in the next minute that is from a state where one of the products that's in the prize package is not legal in your state, primarily by that I'm referring to the gun, the XR920 from Shadow Systems, sponsored by guns.com, then we'll have to find a substitute product for that, okay? So just wanted you to be aware of that, all right? So we'll try to work with you on that. Just want you to be aware. We'll try to, do all, follow the law, in other words, okay? So I just want to make sure that was clear. Here we go. It is time, Brian. And folks, Shannon watching on YouTube, thank you. Appreciate you being here live with us. She says they should move if we choose somebody that that can't win the actual prize package. All right, here we go. You ready? For the $3,100 plus grand prize package featuring a gun, cert stick package, 9-line apparel, $500 gift card, Yellowstone trauma kit from Mountain Medical, KSG Armory holster voucher, Throom Targets Hang Tough kit, Tactical RX glasses, EDC Belt Company Foundation belt, Filster Enigma Express with holster, and a Tyrant CNC $250 gift card. Who's it going to be? Drum roll, please. Oh, I'm so excited because this makes me so happy. Here we go. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Avery from Delaware. Avery from Delaware. Email address ending in iCloud.com. Holy cow. Avery, I hope you're watching, or at the very least listening to this. Either way, we'll be sending you all of our winners an email here very shortly, letting you know that you have been selected as one of our winners. You have 72 hours again to respond and acknowledge receipt of the prize you have been selected for. I hope you all enjoy being a part of this giveaway. We're pleased and honored to be able to do it and to have a bunch of great companies on board to partner up with us on that. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being with us on this special edition. In fact, first episode of the new year of 2024. To that point, we wish everyone a happy new year. Hope that this is a year of safety, of success, of happiness and joy for all of you and those you care about, and also that you are safe in all the things that you do in your training, in your practice, in your day-to-day activities. We talk about these justified saves for a lot of reasons. We do not hope that any of you ever have to be in a position like some of these people were that we talked about today. But if you are, we hope that you're prepared, that you're able to respond appropriately, legally, morally, and do what it takes to ensure you make it home to your family and those you care about safe, or to save and protect the lives of those you care about the most. And so with that, Brian, anything you want to throw out there, last words?
Oh, I don't think so. I think you covered it. Be ready for whatever the mountain throws at you.
There you go. And with that, the slogan we've been using for many, many, many years on the podcast, we say goodbye, adieu, sayonara. Until next time, a reminder to train right, train often, and train safe so you can fight hard, fight fast, and fight true. Take care.